Hello everyone, today I'm going to provide my proposed solution to the New York City puzzle. I'm going to try and keep this as succinct as possible and only discuss the most important aspects in locating the cask. I've known about this for the past few years, and I've tried to get dig permission several times, but have ultimately been unsuccessful in that effort. And unfortunately, without permission, I can't risk digging it up myself. However, I'm convinced the cask is still buried here, and the first person or people brave enough to probe and dig will be rewarded. If you do find it, I'd love for you to send some pictures. Finally, I'd just like to say that over the course of working on this puzzle, I've collected a lot of items and stories that I think others may be interested in. So if you want a longer video with much more in-depth information, please leave a comment. Alright, without any further ado, let's get started. The first thing we need to do is figure out where to start the search. If we look at the beginning of the verse, we can see it references a shadow, gray giant, and slender path. Now if we look at the painting, we can see in the woman's face that there's a bridge casting a shadow. We can also see that the outline of the painting matches the towers of the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. And of course, if this was the bridge that the painting's referencing, that bridge spans the Narrows, which is a slender path. So there's an abundance of clues pointing to the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, and the conclusion is that we should be starting there. So which side of the bridge should we be searching? Going back to the verse and skipping a few lines, it talks about Indy's native. Many people have identified this as Alexander Hamilton. Looking at a map of the Narrows, we can see Fort Hamilton to the east. But the verse is very clear here that we shouldn't head that way. Instead, we should be going towards Fort Wadsworth. And indeed, this can be verified by comparing this postcard of Fort Wadsworth to the painting. So if Indy's native is Alexander Hamilton, who is him of hard word? Him of hard word is Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. There are many facts about Longfellow that match up to this verse, and I've listed a couple here. There was also a paper written by Robert Ward called Longfellow's Roots in Yankee Soil that Byron Preiss must have referenced when creating this verse. Also note that Longfellow concretely answers two separate clues from the Japanese edition of The Secret. Now that we know to look in the Fort Wadsworth neighborhood, how do we find where the treasure is buried? If we go back to the painting and look at the bird's wings, we can see they approximate the road layout of Fort Wadsworth. Starting at the bottom towards the bridge, we follow the wings up to the top where they form a V. This V coincides with a scenic lookout in Von Briesen Park. This park is named after a German immigrant who became a lawyer and later established a society to provide free legal counsel to all immigrants. The park's scenic area has undergone renovations in previous years. However, an aerial view from the time Byron would have been burying the treasure is provided on the right. There are features here which can be found throughout the painting, and primarily the fences perfectly match the V angles. Depending on how you interpret the verse, multiple dig spots can be theorized. Ultimately, however, it doesn't matter, because the treasure isn't buried here. The terrain is dangerously steep past the fence, and rules of the hunt preclude this type of area. So where is the real site? There are two parks in close proximity, but only one of them is a public park, and that's John E. White Playground. This park, which is still in Fort Wadsworth, honors its namesake, who died fighting in World War I. Crucially, lines 5 through 7 confirm John White over Von Briesen. First, John White Park is located next to Summer Street. It also has a spray shower, which creates a whirring sound in the summer as it shoots water out. This water runs over the land, thus solving Japanese clue. Finally, it's enclosed or bounded by roads and cars, whereas Von Briesen Park isn't. There are a few things to point out about this particular view of the park. First, this is from a few years ago before a very recent playground renovation. There were also renovations in the late 90s, but this view that you see here would be more representative of the 1980s than what it currently looks like. Next, there are sets of stairs both on the east and west side of the park, which leads toward the back of the park. Finally, the park and playground are both enclosed by fences. The park's only open during the daytime. You can also see that there's an entrance in the back fence of the playground. Here's an aerial view from 1980. You'll notice that the painting's window is in the shape of the playground. Additionally, at the bottom of the window is a sidewalk which borders Lyman Street. At the top of the window, the outline is broken between the bird's wings. This finally makes sense as it represents the back entrance to the playground. At the top of the stairs is a flagpole, as drawn in the bottom right pane of the window. There's also a staircase in the back of the park, which, when combined with due north, forms the V shown in that pane. Now we can follow the remaining lines in the verse to find the dig spot. We first climb 14 of the eastern stairs to get to the top of the park. Once there, we look down and descend 7 more steps. The top stair of the second flight is our 22nd step and puts us right in the middle of one branch of the V. 7 stairs up, 7 stairs down. At the 22nd step, you can look down and see simple grass roots instead of the weeds, or even battery weed, at Von Briesen Park. One question that still remains is whether the cask is immediately next to the staircase, as denoted by the red arrows, or if it's a number of steps to the east. The number 3 appears multiple times in the painting, so there's a good chance that 3 more steps are required. But we'll only find out once it's recovered. As far as I can tell, this site hasn't been disturbed in the past 3 years. Also, being located next to High Street, I haven't recognized any signs of digging on Google Street View for a much longer time before that. Therefore, I believe that the cask is still buried here and can be retrieved. There are more connections to the verse and painting that I haven't covered in this video, and I'm sure there are many more that I haven't found. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I can create a more in-depth explanation and history of this search if desired. I'd love to hear from you, so leave a comment or drop me an email. Thank you for your time.